Hello guys, and welcome to today's video. In today's video, I'm going to talk about the dragon type, specifically evolving dragon, not Dragon Box. I just got another gym badge, hooray! And it was with dragon. However, I felt like I was very lucky with my matchups in getting this dragon badge, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about the positive negatives of the dragon deck, as well as the specific deck list and how I was able to succeed during my league night. My first two matchups were both against water, and while water can be a tricky type, if it bricks, I just win, and that's kind of what happened. In game one, my opponent unfortunately got a very slow start, followed up by a Marnie that gave him just energy to his hand. And because of that, I was able to capitalize and slowly just steam through his board, even though my double dragon energy was prized. In fact, I would have had double dragon energy out very soon if it was not prized. I was very sad on the event that happened. However, because he was unable to disrupt my hand, I was able to actually kind of coast through the game, get whatever I needed, and get my board solidly set up, even though he stopped my Raging Bolt with Manaphy. My second water matchup was against a not as strong water list. I was able to walk all over them since they don't play a Benchberry Manaphy, and I was able to just snipe off, even though they did get a very chunky whale up. Just the fact I was able to have a lot of early pressure with Raging Bolt sniping around the active and just getting rid of stuff like Sobble and all the other guys just made the matchup pretty easy and straightforward for me. And the third matchup was the most interesting of them all. I went up against fighting, and I made a pretty bad misplay early on that just let me bleed. Well, I don't know if it was as much of a big misplay as if it was just my deck not giving me what I felt like I could have gotten. I set up my board a bit wide into like a fighting spread deck, and I specifically had Tatsugiri to really help me out of my dead hand, and then he gusted around it and forced me up into something else. And while I was able to use Drampa very successfully to steam through some of the guys, since he started with the Tingloon spread, the fact that I did not find one of my evolutions out or an Arvin to find Evo Incense or Evo Soda just meant I never got my Gabite out, which meant I never got my Dragonite out, and eventually he just got a lot of guys. Luckily though, I did almost start with a Dreepy on my bench, and then I said, wait, hold up, before I bench that Dreepy, let's think about this for a bit, because I don't know what type my opponent is playing, and if it's spread, I'm gonna not be very happy about it. And hoo boy, I am so glad I did that, because I barely won against my opponent's one single prize, and benching that Dreepy probably made that difference in the prize race, letting me win through the invincibility and ioning my opponent to two very dead hands. I'll be honest, I feel like the only reason why I did get my badge was I was more familiar with the format. My last opponent was a standard player, and my deck was just very solidly built, and so I was able to Iono twice, but still be able to manage to find what I needed to make it out in the end. And because Garchomp is just that broken, I feel like Evolving Dragon is slightly better than Dragon Box. I won't say for sure because I haven't played Dragon Box, but there's no undeniable fact that Garchomp is one of the best parts of Dragon. It is fairly strong, but struggles with late game boxing, so you have to do everything in your power to get your board set up as much as possible. And Garchomp is like one of the few ways you as a player have to control mid to late game tempo in order to push the trades favorably in your favor. Garchomp is a stage 2 Pokemon with the ability Sonic Slip. When you play this Pokemon from your hand to evolve one of your Pokemon during your turn, you may prevent all damage and effects of attacks done to this Pokemon until the end of your opponent's next turn. Like I was talking about with Dragon Ball, this really forces your opponent to either lose a turn of attacking, and they can't hex it because Sonic Slip activates when you play it during your turn, so unless you hexed or your opponent had hexed the turn before, shutting off your ability, Sonic Slip is in effect. It's also unable to be shut off by Pokemon Ranger, which only stops effects of attacks, and this is an effect of an ability, so Garchomp is very powerful, forces your opponent to lose tempo or have a Gust card to play around Garchomp, leaving a very live threat alive, and one of Dragon's best parts, especially since its Prevo Goodbye is just as strong. Goodbye is a black and white card with ability Dragon Call. Dragon Call lets you, once during your turn, search your deck for a dragon Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Some people might be wondering why this list doesn't play Lance. It's because it is a very basic heavy deck and there are only 2 stage 2 lines, and Goodbye is the main way to like just get those, and we play plenty of evolution cards too. So Lance as a supporter when Dragon struggles to get consistency like with energies and stuff doesn't feel like super necessary, though I can understand why people might want to play it in certain lists. But the pair of Goodbye and Garchomp is super strong, and we play a 70 HP Gible as well, since 70 HP prevents you from getting donked by other Raging Bolt, and you're able to do 30 damage with a Double Dragon as well, which KOs certain small little guys. So this is the start of our Dragon Evolution deck with Garchomp. Our other attackers include the following. We have Drampa with the Berserk. If you have any damage on your benched Pokemon, you can do 90 more damage, so he can hit 160 for 2 energy, which is really strong, especially if the metagame is repping spread around you. Drampa is just like a very good auto attacker into spread matchups. Spread takes 2 or 3 turns to actually kill a whole bunch of things, so having Drampa being able to potentially pop back in and just do a ton of damage because your opponent's trying to win is really nice. And as someone who has practiced spread into Dragon, Drampa is one of the scariest cards you could potentially have. Raging Bolt is one of my favorite cards in Dragon, since the Thunderburst Storm does 30 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon for each energy attached to it. Meaning if you get an early Raging Bolt and you can just attach like 3 energy to it, you can snipe most early game Pokemon, and then you can keep on stacking and make it as big as possible, or potentially use it late game to snipe off something that is kind of small and just sitting there on the bench. Druddigon is the glue that keeps Dragon's attack stringed together. Revenge is a 40 plus 120, hitting that 160 like Drampa, but only if one of your Pokemon was knocked out the previous turn. And having mostly basic attackers feels very nice because there's many ways to get them out, with cards such as Artisan and Stormy Mountains, Nest Ball and Quick Ball, Mysterious Treasure. These cards just kind of let you be able to chain basic attackers, and you use eventually evolve into Garchomp, activate Sonic Slip, and you just get a turn of momentum to your favor. There are still a couple more Pokemon we have in the list. Kyurem was a pack-in specifically for the night, even though it didn't see any play, since a handful of people were playing Colress cards, and Kyurem into an unassuming player will get potentially a checkmate scenario. Though honestly, this slot is going to become Hilda when that comes out. Hilda is a really good card, especially for Evolution Dragon decks, since it will get an Evolution Pokemon as well as an energy card, meaning you get one more chance to get that double Dragon energy, which is Dragon's whole jam. The whole game plan is to get double Dragon energy as soon as possible, and to be able to recycle it and use it once more to get the tempo and the single turn attachments in your favor. Dragon is very much a high roll deck, and the high roll is to get double Dragon and pressure on your opponent as soon as possible, and if you are unable to clean up a game super fast, the game plan kind of falls apart unless your opponent doesn't really do anything to your board. Now we have one more basic Pokemon, and that is Tatsugiri. Tatsugiri's attract customers lets you look at the top 6 cards of your deck and reveal a supporter card and put it into your hand. Now you may see that we also play Dragonite. Dragonite's fast call ability lets you search your deck for a supporter card once during your turn and put it into your hand. And the reason why we have both of these cards in here is because Tatsugiri is probably the best way to try to get out of an early dead hand and can give you a good pivot early, and having an early pivot with Spikemuth up, which whenever you switch during your turn you put 2 damage counters on one of your Pokemon, really helps set up for a Drampa early game charge up, especially if your opponent isn't playing spread. And the reason why we play Dragonite is I think the access to whatever supporter you need late game is just a super powerful effect, and getting rid of that option from your game plan is like playing Psychic without Glade. You can do it, but you're kind of limiting your options and flexibility that the deck can do. And of course, with the Dragonite, we have a 90 HP Dragonair and a 70 HP Dratini. The last 2 Pokemon we have are kind of flex spots. Currently, we have Dracloak, with the Retcon Directive letting you look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand and one of them on the bottom of the deck, and the Dreepy to accompany it. Now, Retcon Directive is very good support, and it's kind of just an extra nice thing you put on your board if you need to, because most of the time you're rather gunning for a Dragonite to get that supporter search as soon as possible. But Dracloak is very nice, especially since you can see an extra card. I feel like if we ever get a baby dragon Dragapult, this Dracloak line might even become stronger, but we'll have to see what the future holds. Now, those were the Pokemon I'm running specifically in this list. If you burn through your basic attackers, it can be a little scary, and an early Garchomp will put a lot of pressure on your resources, so you gotta be careful with that, but these guys did lead me to very good victory. Now, with all this talk about getting Double Dragon out as soon as possible, which should be every Dragon deck's main goal and desire, since Double Dragon itself is a double Rainbow Energy but only to Dragon Pokemon, and in order to facilitate getting Double Dragon as much as possible, we run Guzma and Hala. Guzma and Hala is one of the best supporters in Dragon, since if you discard 2 cards from your hand, you get a Stadium, a Special Energy card, and a Pokemon Tool card into your hand. And with our stadiums being Spikemuth, Artazon, and Story Mountains, that either gets you a very good early game setup, or if you go Spikemuth, Double Dragon, Air Balloon, or Float, you can proc your own Drampa and get a ton of damage off that way as well. And we also play Colress Tenacity, even though this card is a little dangerous into the Dragon Mirror. Colress's Tenacity allows you to get that Double Dragon and additionally a Stadium maybe to bump, but out to Double Dragon is the main thing here. We have 2 draw support. We have Marty and Iono, which are just good disruption cards. And we have Arven here as well to get one of our Pokemon tools, which we'll look at in just a moment, and an item card, which tends to be a decent flex card in order to get whatever you need at that point in time. Now, we have only 4 Pokemon tools, that being Floatstone and Air Balloon for Retreat, Bravery Charm for HP boost on all the basic Pokemon, and Luxurious Cape. Luxurious Cape does give 100 plus HP and an additional prize, but if you're able to tank attack, we can do a funny combo with this specific tech card, which you can only really play in a Dragonite engine list. Acerola. Acerola lets you scoop up one of your damaged Pokemon and all cards attached to it into your hand, and if you do that, you can potentially recur a Double Dragon or use another Lux Cape and get a really big basic guy down once again while denying your opponent a prize. The other tech cards we play are Hex Maniac, which with ability shutdown, some lists really can't handle that, so with Dragonite being able to grab the Hex Maniac whenever you need it, that is very, very good. And Guzma, since Gust Kill is just that important in this format. We have a handful for more trainers. Crispin is in our list, and we specifically play cards like Super Rod in order to re-enable Crispin. Crispin allows you to accelerate energy into play, which sometimes the deck struggles with, and that's also why we play Raihan in this list as well, since Raihan lets you re-accelerate an energy from the discard pile and gets you the any one card you need to make sure the game can go. But we also play Teammates, as getting any 2 specific cards is very, very good. Now let's take a quick look at our items. Now you might notice that this pile of cards is all about finding trainers from the top card or deck, because we want to find Guzma and Hala as soon as possible. In fact, tag call only target in the deck is Guzma and Hala, since that enables your whole early game strategy. We also play Roto Stick, which reveals the top 4 cards of your deck, and you get to have any supporter from the top 4 cards of your deck into your hand, which is really good sometimes late game and just kind of acts like another Tatsugiri to try to get your game board going as well. We play Pokegear 3.0, and as well as Trainer's Mail, which not only finds supporters but also any trainers you desire. And as for Pokemon Search, we run the pretty stock standard necessities. We got Evo Soda, Evolution Instance, Mysterious Treasure, and Level Ball to all help get evolution Pokemon out into play. And we run Nest Ball, Buddy Buddy Puffin, and Quick Ball in order to get basics out. Now, of course, you may be like, that doesn't feel like a ton of Pokemon Search, but keep in mind, we also play Artisan and Soaring Mountains, and most of our attackers are basic, so we don't need as much basic search as we do potential evolutions out, since the evolutions in this deck, like Garchomp, Gabite, and Dragonite, are just very, very powerful, and to help facilitate evolving into like an early Garchomp or Dragonite, potentially off a Teammates play, we also play Rare Candy, since a Rare Candy into Dragonite or Garchomp is, you know, just that good. We also play Palpad in this list, which is a luxury supporter search decks can use, since it's just a super VS Seeker, because it could act as a VS Seeker and potentially skin something back. And keep in mind, with this Dragon Blight attack on Garchomp, you are sacking resources. We also play a good chunk of recovery cards. Special Charge is undeniably must be played in every dragon deck, since you want to recycle double dragon energy. Rescue Stretcher is really good since it can recur a basic attacker or shuffle a stage 2 back into your deck, or multiple stage 1 attackers if you need it to be. And Super Rod is in here, which allows you to reshuffle back in basic energy cards if you haven't used Crispin yet, and it re-enables that late game. Tail Map is also in here, since Double Dragon is just that powerful, and like there's no Hisuian Heavy in here, but usually you can manage to get at least 1 prize card, and if you have Town Map, you can snag whatever you really need for the situation. And Field Blower's in here just because if you don't play Field Blower, it's going to come bite you in the booty one day. And through this chaotic deck breakdown, we are finally at the energy cards. We play 4 special energies, which is Double Dragon, Counter Energy, which you can use early to replace a Double Dragon attack, especially if you somehow lost an early game prize, like they killed your Tatsugiri or something. Blend Energy, which combines Fighting, Lightning, and Water, which is really good, especially with Raging Bolt and Garchomp. And Rainbow Energy, which you could use to potentially proc a Drampa if you already have your Drampa powered up and you have a spare attachment for the turn. As for basic energy, we run 2 Water and 2 Fighting, since both Garchomp and Drampa use the Water Fighting, and Druddigon also uses water in its energy attack to enable all of our attackers to be powered up with Crispin. We have a single fire energy for Druddigon and a single lightning energy for Raging Bolt. Now that was the list. I hope it wasn't too incoherent listening to my ramblings. I am very proud that I was able to get a second badge immediately after my first one, and it does help that I was very familiar with this type. Anyways, that's it for this video, and if you like this video, be sure to give it a like and share it with a friend, and I'll see you guys all in next week's video. Bye!